Welcome to Power Players, ladies and gentlemen. You are so lucky. We are so lucky to have Jared back here with us again today. If you don't know Jared, Jared is an author and a great guy. This book is one of my favorite books when it comes to the mental game of trading. He's also got two other books, The Mental Game of Poker and The Mental Game of Poker 2. He is here to answer your questions. You're not going to see much of me. We're going to let Jared take things over. Jared, as always, it's a pleasure to have you with us. How you feeling? How you doing? Pretty good?
I'm good, John. Thanks for it. Voice is a little scraggly today. I was at the Sixers game late last night, but I'll be good to go. But that's not going to affect my answers. It just maybe I might get a little squeaky at some point.
Yeah, well, that's right. Hey, you're living life, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't. I mean, plus it's also good to see, high-level performance in action. I actually saw the Sixers play the Pacers 2 games in a row, which is not, usual. And, saw Maxey drop 50 on Sunday, and the Pacers looked inept. And then yesterday in this now, kind of NBA tournament where there's a little bit more on the line, all of a sudden Pacers showed up and the Sixers weren't ready. So it's interesting to see how much energy, not interesting. We know it, how much energy means to performance. So we'll get into that a little bit today. So let's get into it.
All right. Well, take it over. Looking forward to it. And everybody enjoy. I hope you got your questions in. Let's dig in.
Yeah, and if there are any other questions that come in, we'll maybe do a little bit of a lightning round towards the end. But there's a lot of good questions already. I want to say out of the gate. So those that are kind of new to my approach, sometimes I will take a more kind of understanding style, right? Like we're not just looking at the surface level issues of FOMO and greed and revenge trading and confidence issues, overconfidence. We're not just looking at those surface level issues and saying, don't do that, right? We know that they're wrong. Stop making those stupid mistakes that you know better than. Because that's not really that helpful, right? Especially when they're powered by things that you don't fully understand yet. So we have to kind of dig down and understand more of the causality. But at other times, I think there's a bit of a need for a motivational stance. And so I'm going to try to kind of toggle between those two styles today just to try something a little bit different. And this first question out of the gate kind of reflects that a little bit. The question is, what recommendations do you give to traders who struggle with motivation to track or log their trades? So going from the more motivational style, talking about the NBA, there's not a single NBA team that would allow them to be at a competitive disadvantage, right? So for example, let's say they were no longer, let's take the Sixers, right? The Sixers were no longer ever able to watch video replay of their games. They couldn't watch video replay of their practices individually as players or collectively as a team. They would be at a massive competitive disadvantage to the rest of the NBA if that were true. And that is what you were doing when you're not logging and taking your trades. And you're doing that in the most competitive market, most competitive arena on the planet. And so to think that you can show up and trade without actually having the ability to peer back and see how you were doing and really analyze your past trades, you're either delusional or you're gambling. Okay, hard stop. That's the motivational side. Now, the other side of me will say, well, maybe there are some hidden reasons for why you're not really buying into this, right? There could be some procrastination and laziness and maybe some hidden wishes that, you wish that trading could be easy and that you didn't have to do all this extra work to, be successful. You just want to show up and trade, and that's the fun part. Doing all this extra work is just not fun. And I get all that, right? But if we're going to kind of solve those weaknesses, then you've got to work towards developing more like a robust approach. And maybe it's because what you're experiencing in trading is not just something that you see as a habit there, but actually something you see elsewhere in your life. So maybe there's laziness and procrastination and a little bit of wishing, lack of work ethic in other places that are affecting you. So this isn't really a trading issue. This is a personal one that you've got to now maybe use trading as an opportunity to better yourself, which again is one of the things I love about trading, right? It can kind of force us to see weaknesses that we have within ourselves and take a cold, hard look, because either you're going to rise to the occasion or you're not, and you're better off somewhere else. And I think all of you have gone far enough along to say, all right, I'm willing to rise to the occasion. And here you are being able to use trading as a chance to better your financial standing, make some good money and progress on that spectrum, but then also on the personal side, like you can develop more personal discipline, better work ethic, right? More consistency in how you're approaching things. And if you do that, well, then not only are you making more money, but you're, a better human being and a more functional and capable one as well. All right, next question. How can I control over trading? Well, the reality is that to think that you can control over trading. Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, no worries. How can I control over trading? Well, control is not really what we're after here. I know a lot of you think that control is a solution, but control is a band-aid, especially when we're dealing with problems as intense and as severe as overtrading or many of the other, kind of issues that you face that are seemingly kind of out of control, right? And so let's say the revenge trading or even, the risk aversion that causes you to close trades prematurely, right? Whether it's overtrading or other emotional issues, right? Control is not the thing that we're after, right? Resolution is what we're after. Because when you resolve a problem, you remove it from having your brain be responsible for having to monitor it. You will never trade as well as you possibly can if you're relying on emotional control, because it demands too much of your brain to defend against it in order for you to trade your best. So in the short term, yes, right? Control can be a strategy, right? Now, if we're going to specifically talk about how to control over trading, well, in the short term, it means better understanding the emotions that are driving that, right? The question is too broad to really be, helpful. Where specifically is the overtrading happening? Is it happening after a series of losses? Is it happening in certain market conditions that are, let's say, moving sideways or really, volatile in one direction or the other? Is it happening when you're tired? Is it happening when there's a bit more, kind of overconfidence, right? Where, you've had a big rush, right? Getting close to maybe passing a combine. All of a sudden you get kind of overly excited, overly convicted that your, ideas are right and the trades you're putting on are going to win, right? That excessive conviction or overconfidence. So you have to figure out first and foremost, like, what are the situations where you're struggling most, right? Going back to the NBA example. I mean, if an NBA team is struggling in, transition defense, right? Well, that's still a broad category, and there's going to be specific scenarios that they're going to be strong in and weak in others. So the more specific you can get in defining the problem, the easier it becomes to dissect it, understand it, and then begin to craft corrections that eventually can, over time, resolve the problem so it goes away, right? And your mind is now freed up to no longer have to defend against that, right? Long term. And in the short term, right, by understanding it and crafting that strategy, you can then have some control in the short term. So you can see the escalation of emotion coming and be able to take action early enough before that loss of control comes in. Because the reality is the mind is easily overtaken by intense emotions, right? Intense emotions are more powerful than the mind's ability to defend against them. And that is how the brain is wired. Okay, so if you're going to control over trading, you've got to take action early before that escalation really takes hold. Next question. Is there a tipping point where it all fits into place and makes sense, or do you still always struggle? And I'd say the flaw in this question is it's a bit too kind of binary. Either you find it and have kind of figured it out forever, or you're always struggling and it's always hard. And the answer is it's neither, really. I mean, I think you can find a place in your career where a lot of things make sense and you have kind of firm command of your strategy and your system, and the market is kind of aligned with that and you're doing really well. It doesn't mean that it's easy, right? Every day is a challenge to kind of prepare yourself, but yeah, in relative speaking terms, it is a lot easier, right? You have a lot of inherent knowledge and skill and a strategy that's working, market that's cooperating, right? The challenge there is the potential overconfidence that can set in. But if you can remain stable and objective and clear, knowing that, the probability of these trades has not changed, right? Then that stability means that, yeah, things are quite a little bit easier. But then, of course, the market can change. Your strategy might kind of fall out of favor. You might have to make some adaptations. maybe something changes in your personal life, you've got bigger goals, right? There is an ongoing evolution that takes place both for yourself and of course with the markets. And so, yeah, then you will find times where you're going to struggle again. And that's normal, right? So the reality is you can't like eliminate your weaknesses. Let me say this. You can't eliminate the fact that we all have weaknesses. Even the best traders in the world have weaknesses, right? The idea is you can correct the current weaknesses and kind of level yourself up and graduate to higher and higher levels. But at each stage, right, there are challenges that you're going to face. So, maybe it's in scaling up and taking on, bigger positions. Maybe it's in changing to different instruments or different markets. There's an evolution that takes place. And so, yeah, it's neither that you're going to kind of find it and figure it out and kind of permanently have this strategy that's going to make you money like a printing press, but you're also not always going to be struggling either. Next question. I struggle to accept losses in the financial markets. Even when I do, it's often too late and the market turns in my favor after my large position have already been closed. This takes a toll on my morale, leading to emotional distress for the rest of the day. The account limit with the DLL adds extra pressure. Losing 2 or 3, losing 2,000 or 1,500 out of 3,000 is a psychological red flag. Okay, so the question is, how do I accept losses in the financial markets? And so, the motivational side of me says, well, losses are an inherent part of this game. And so by not accepting them, you're basically believing that the laws of gravity don't exist. Believing that you can fly, right? And I know you don't inherently believe that, but there's a reason why you don't inherently believe that in the markets. And maybe it's because you're wishing that you could never lose. Maybe it's because the pain of losing is severe. Maybe you've heard of prospect theory. Okay, prospect theory is the relationship between losses and wins in terms of how they emotionally affect us. And losing for a lot of people hurts way more than winning feels good, right? The ratio isn't really balanced. And so, the pain of losing is so severe that many of you won't accept it. And for good reason, because what happens when you feel that deep emotional pain? You'll overreact and you'll do a bunch of dumb things, or it'll hurt your confidence. And maybe you're not going to be able to trade as well for days and weeks after. Okay, so there's a lot of reasons why the lack of acceptance of losses may be there, right? Maybe the taking losses feels like mistakes. Maybe you've got some perfectionism or high expectations of yourself, and so then anytime you take a loss, it feels like you did something wrong, when of course, objectively, we know that that's not true. So if you're going to truly accept losses, right, you need to understand why it is that you were unable to, right? It's not for random reasons. It just takes a little bit of foresight, or it takes a little bit of reflection to step back and ask yourself, right, why actually is it reasonable, right, that I'm avoiding this? I mean, if I was to sit next to you with a cattle prod, and every time you took a loss, like I was going to shock you with that thing or burn you with it, I mean, fair enough. You would very quickly want to be avoiding those losses. Okay? But what if you did nothing wrong? Okay, and it was more just the inherent nature of the market. And sometimes lacking that vision can be tricky. And I'm going to get to a tool that you can use in response to another question here shortly as well. Next question. I'm reading your book and you speak about finding resolution, which I just talked about, when identifying one's emotional flaws in relation to trading. I find I overtrade and am impatient. I read too much into the market. How would you advise resolving these problems? So I've actually kind of, I guess, talked about this a little bit already, right? That the resolution is going to come from better understanding the why, right? Better understanding and identifying the underlying flaws and biases and wishes and illusions that are kind of really driving that emotionality. And so my guess is you probably have gotten into the beginning part of the book, but not really the meat, where we're going to kind of dive into the, the greed and the fear and the anger and the confidence that oftentimes is like driving the overtrading and driving the impatience. Okay. Impatience, I would define purely as a discipline problem. And it's very, very important that you distinguish between impatience that is a discipline problem from impatience that is actually more of an emotional problem. And you're impatient because you're fearful and you're angry and you're greedy and you're overconfident or you're lacking confidence. And those are two very different things. Because if you're lacking discipline from a pure motivational standpoint, right, from a pure discipline standpoint, it's usually because you're lacking the energy, right, to adhere to your strategy. And so you're a little bored, you're a little distracted, you're a little disinterested, right? You're lacking motivation. So boosting your energy, getting yourself in a higher, emotional state, energy state, is actually the answer to that type of impatience. But if there's emotion driving it, you don't want to boost your energy or your emotions even further. You're already redlining. So that would actually do the opposite. So it's important to distinguish between those two. And by and large, the vast majority of traders that I talk to and have worked with, what feels like impatience, right, is much more emotionally driven. And so I would stop using that term for a little while, and I would start asking yourself, am I feeling greedy? Am I having, fear, FOMO? Is there some anger, revenge trading at play? Am I overconfident? Am I lacking confidence? Right? If you ask yourself those questions in those scenarios, you're going to start to find what is really driving the impatience and the over trading. Next question. And Jack, we're going to pull up the share screen here in a second. I have a problem of exiting trades early and watching price go to my take profit target. It seems that I focus too much on P&L and worry about my paper profits diminishing. Any tick that works against me, my alarm bells ring, and it's only a matter of time before I close my trades prematurely. What are steps to take in order to focus more on my performance and learning rather than my P&L? So when emotions are intense like this, we can almost kind of say like the outcome is like price fit, right? Like it's as if this is inevitable. And for a lot of you at this stage where your emotions are so heightened, it probably is. So I would strongly suggest that you do everything you can to rip yourself away from the monitor, right, from your desk, and just walk away, but bring a piece of paper or your phone or a laptop, that's not connected to your account, and go write about what you're experiencing emotionally. Sometimes when the emotions are so heightened, right, it can be hard to kind of process and make sense of it and understand what the heck is driving it. Okay. And especially when we're so P&L driven, right? A lot of times it can be related to confidence. It can certainly be related to some fear, right? The paper profit diminishing. But sometimes the fear can actually be defense against anger, because if you see paper profit diminish and you have the thought like, oh, I should close, and then it retraces, closes you out, and then anger gets triggered because you're pissed off that you could have had that paper profit realized, but then it just sort of evaporated in your hands. So again, if you rip yourself away, you're going to have an opportunity to obviously stay in the trade and maybe allow it to hit your target without you there. Again, this is not a longer term strategy. This is methods of control. This is not resolution. Okay, so you rip yourself away and you just go type out or write out what you're experiencing. It's going to help you to better understand kind of like what is happening, because right now, allowing it to just get closed takes you right off the hot seat and diminishes the emotion entirely. But in that moment, right, we can kind of see the crazy for what it is, right? You can see the intensity for what it is and start to peel back the layers like a detective, like looking for clues about what the heck is going on, because it's those clues that really become helpful in working towards resolution. Okay, now the other strategy, if we can pull up the screen share, I'll go through this. Now, this is my Mental Game Trading Live platform, which Michael referenced earlier. Right? This is my new program. So if you're enjoying this platform gives you access to recordings, new ones every week, plus a database of lots more. And I answer a lot of questions like this and go kind of deeper into my system on a very regular basis, including talking about a variety of topics like understanding fear, which is the one that I recorded last night. Now, specifically, there's a knowledge base. As you see, I kind of scroll down this left-hand column. This knowledge base includes lots of questions, advice, copy pasting from the book to give you just like kind of very quick sampling of information that can help you get started right away. So if you're kind of new to my system, this is a place to kind of get some quick steps to take and begin building your strategy for trading psychology. And specifically for this question, right, I'm going to go past the data collection, which is another tool I use, the profiling mapping, mental hand history, real-time strategy, all tools I use, down to this understanding your game, which is using what I call an A to C game analysis. And it's the primary tool that I use to help traders become better able to add an element of feedback that goes beyond P&L, okay? If you want to truly focus more on your performance, you need to have feedback regularly in order to do that. Otherwise, your default mode is going to be to measure your performance based on P&L. But we need to have a more objective measurement of your performance other than P&L. Otherwise, you're just like making it up on the spot. And that's the kind of BS that I'm not really a fan of. So you're going to define your game with what I call an A to C game analysis, where you are quite literally going to define what your A game looks like, your B game looks like, and your C game looks like, distinguishing very clearly between what your trading looks like from a mental standpoint and a technical standpoint with your A, B, and C game, okay? And you can see examples of all of those here, okay? And if you want to see a few other examples of A to C game analyses, here's one here, okay? And I'll make this a little bit bigger for you. You can see this is from a trader that put a lot of good time into this, right? This tool, I'd say on average takes 2 to 3 weeks to kind of nail down firmly, right? So you're kind of paying attention to what it's like on days where you're in your A game and you're taking notes about that. And then of course, when trading gets really bad, of course, we don't want that to happen, but it is inevitable. And you're writing down the details of what goes on there. And of course, you can use your memory, or you can go back and you think about, all right, what was it like when I was at my best and my worst? And typically, right, you can see there's a lot more detail in A game and C game. And that's pretty common, right? Because it's harder sometimes to see the average style of your performance. But there's more here to kind of build out, and this trader will do that, or will have done that. And so then this is the tactical side. And the tactical side, really should be things that I don't fully understand, right? Everybody at Topstep from a performance standpoint will understand, what you're after, but, your style and your strategy are going to be different. So you're kind of looking at like, what thoughts are going through your mind, what aspects of your decision-making, what indicators you're using, like what are you really thinking about and doing well when you're trading in your A game versus your B game and your C game. And if you do this, right, so again, 2 to 3 weeks to kind of nail down really solidly so that over the next, let's say 4 to 10 weeks, it's not going to change at all, right? Because your performance can't rapidly rise that fast, okay? Yes, you can kind of, shift towards more A game, right? But your C game can't be eliminated that fast, as much as you might wish that to be the case, okay? You can certainly avoid your C game, but to permanently upgrade it so that you're never going to experience that again is not going to happen within generally 4 to 10 weeks. I mean, 2 months, 2 to 3 months, yeah, you can get to that point where you can be, kind of moving past it permanently. But the point is, you spend some time to craft it, and then it gives you a objective measurement of your performance on a day-to-day basis. And I have clients that will do this with every single trade that they take. I have clients that will set a timer to look at this every half hour or hour or every 2 hours, just to give them a point of feedback. Because as a trader, right, you don't have the luxury of a coach, like on the Sixers, being able to see what's going on and benching you when it's clear that you're tired and you're performing like garbage. You have to be that coach for yourself. And so how are you going to do that, right? How do you have two perspectives at once? How do you be your coach or manager while at the same time that you're also the trader? Well, this tool, right, the A to C game analysis, provides you that vision. And so you can literally keep it open on your computer, on your monitor, while you're trading, okay? And of course, if you need some help creating it, there are some video reviews that you can do, you can kind of access here in the system, and some additional questions that will help you get through this. And that's really what the platform is about, is providing a lot of kind of on-demand access to any of the tools that are going to help you to build your mental game and trading strategy. And of course, there's a lot of information about these other topics down here as well. All right, Jack, you can stop the screen share. And I should say also, right, use the link down below this video, and there are some discount codes both for the Essential membership and the premium membership that you should take advantage of. All right, next question, and then we'll kind of maybe scroll down to a lightning round coming up here because I've got a number of other questions here to answer. All right, why is it then we have a stop loss? All right, this question is a little weird. Why is it that when I have a stop loss trade gravitates to it faster than my target goal, but if I remove stop loss, I make my target goal? Okay, it seems that I make money scalping fast with small profits and make my daily goal. But the other day, Jared was talking about that if you fast scalping for small profits over time, you will fail. Ever since I heard that, I've done nothing but crash my accounts. Maybe I heard it wrong, but it did affect my mindset. I can assure you that I would never say something like that because I have clients who are scalpers and they're obviously very successful at it. My guess is that what I was referring to is that if you're scalping for fast, small profits in a system that is not designed for that, that you are going to fail because that's not how your strategy and system is designed for it. Like, where's the profitability coming from? Well, the profitability should be coming from, if it's designed for fast scalping, well, then it's going to, your edge is there, it's going to work. If that's not the case, then you either will fail or you're going to not give yourself really the opportunity for success. Because I think, Hogan and I were talking about this last time, right? There's, if your system is, I'm going to get the math wrong here, right? But if your system is, winning at a rate of, let's say, 40%, and you have, an R multiple of like 1.2, like you're not going to make money. Those sort of foul scalps of, 0.2 profit, right? This is just not gonna work. So, yes, I do think that you heard me wrong. And in general, I'm kind of guaranteeing that somebody's going to hear anything that I've said here incorrectly. I've wrote my Mental Game of Poker book in 2010, and I've heard misinterpretations of it for years. And why is that, right? Because you all are kind of hearing what I'm saying from a lens that includes a lot of the flaws that are affecting you. So some of you are hearing what you want to hear. Others are, hearing things in, slightly altered ways. So yeah, by all means, go back to the tape. There is a recording of the last session. So I'm not saying all this as a criticism or as a defense. I'm saying it as, point of general feedback, right? There's misinterpretations are easy to occur. But the good thing about these sessions are they are recorded. So you can always go back on Topstep's YouTube channel to find them. Next question. When price action gets dull and sits in a tight range or melts up or down in a slow manner, I think I get bored and make up trades that aren't there. This then spirals into revenge trading and blaming the slow markets for my losses. It takes me out of my A game and straight to C game. I guess I need more patience for my setups. Okay, so given what you've heard so far today, do we think that patience is really what this is about? Right? I would say first and foremost, no. And I'll repeat something you said. I blame the slow markets for my losses. Okay, I commend you for being honest about that. Okay, one of the things that is most difficult for a lot of you is truly being honest about what's going on in your mind, what you're fearful of, what you're struggling with. Like, it's not fun. Like, nobody wants to be here talking about this crap, truthfully, myself included, right? I wanted to be a professional golfer. I didn't want to be here talking to all of you about, trading psychology, but here we are, and I'm happy for it. Like, I love my work because I'm able to bring a perspective that is different, that is impactful. Okay. And so the ability to be honest about your shortcomings is a hard thing for people to do. It's certainly a hard thing for guys to do. Okay. And so I commend you for doing that. Right. And the next person that is able to do that, I commend you as well. Because I know that some of you are sitting here kind of thinking, right, that you're being a bit disingenuous with yourself. You're being a bit dishonest with yourself and kind of hiding the truth. And yeah, it can be painful, but you're strong enough to be able to handle it, in part because you're not alone, right? I'm going to come back here again. I'll answer your questions next time if I don't get to it today, right? You already come on my platform and I'll help you there. Okay. There's help, right? These are not insurmountable problems, right? When I first started out working in 2003, I was working in the social service system in Boston. Okay. We're talking about kids, and families with massive mental and emotional illness and issues across the board, both economically, socially, and from a mental health standpoint. All the stuff we talk about within trading psychology is minor in comparison to that, right? There are solutions to very deep, hard problems out there, and I'm not diminishing, right, the importance of the issues that you all face. Okay, they're all real and they're important, and we're going to get to them. But I'm saying that as a way to just free you up from anything that is blocking you from being honest with yourself about what you're struggling with. Okay, so let me get back to this question now. Blaming the slow markets for my loss. I mean, damn, like if you're going to solve this problem, you have to take full responsibility for your actions. There's nothing that the market is doing to force your hand. It might trigger emotions in you that force your hand, but you are responsible for that, right? Understanding, dissecting of those emotions that are driving you, okay? So yeah, you get a little bored and you make up trades that aren't there. Why? Well, there could be a lot of reasons, right? Maybe you're a bit of an action junkie, right? So when there's nothing happen, right, that little dopamine part of your brain's going, I want some fun. And you jump into the market to try to make some. And then, of course, you create more dopamine and more adrenaline when that revenge gets clicked in. Look, I mean, these cycles are real, okay? Now, it also could just be, a lack of connection to your goals and a lack of real conviction to a process to ensure that you are connected to your goals on a regular basis so you don't allow your mind to drift and then start to manipulate something that's not there, okay? There's a lot of reasons for it, okay? But the first thing that has to happen is that responsibility. All right, we're going to do a little lightning round action here because I think I'm going to do about 5-7 minutes left here. Is that right, Hogue?
Yeah, you're good to go. Looking forward to the lightning round.
All right, rock and roll. All right, what are some common psychological pitfalls that day traders often encounter, and how could I avoid them? Well, that's not a question for the lightning round, okay? But, so mental game trading live. Those are the thorough answers there. But what are common pitfalls? Fear, okay? FOMO is probably the biggest one. But the thing about FOMO is that it's oftentimes code for other problems, right? It's rare. It's truly rare that traders really have a fear that there's going to be, not another opportunity out there, right? So I fear missing out on this opportunity because deep down, I don't think I'm going to get another one, okay? And yeah, that can absolutely happen for those of you that are under very kind of tight rules and maybe you only get 1 or 2 trades a day, or you're only trading for a short period of time. And if you miss that one opportunity, it's gone. But beyond that, a lot of times the FOMO is code for anger. It's, because you'll be angry if you miss out on an opportunity. It's code for overconfidence, right? You're kind of like manipulating your mind to believe that you're going to, see this massive, this trade is going to be massive, and you certainly don't want to miss out on it. Or it's code for lack of confidence, because if you see other traders making money and you're not, well, then what does that say about you? So it actually just said a bunch of different common pitfalls that are all kind of sometimes code for FOMO. I'm a terrible revenge trader. The worst thing is I fully recognize that I'm revenge trading. I tell myself I'm revenge trading. Sometimes I say it out loud. In my head, I know it's going to end badly, but I do it over and over. Jack, if you can pull up the screen again, I want to share this chart here. Okay, so what you're talking about here fits very cleanly in this description. I've kind of alluded to this a lot today already, but now it's time to kind of bring it home with a little bit of theory. Okay, Yerkes-Dodson law describes the relationship between performance and your emotional state, right? Stress, arousal, like your intensity, right? Arousal is just a psychological term for all the same stuff, right? Okay. But when your energy, your emotions are too low, you suck. When your energy, your emotions too high, you equally suck, right? We're looking to get you at the top of that curve where you have enough energy and enough emotional stability to sustain high level performance. Okay. Where you are is the worst place to be. It's like figure around 80 out of 100 down that left side of that, or that right side of the curve, kind of halfway down. This is where you retain enough awareness of what's happening, but the emotional drivers are so intense that you're basically just becoming witness to your own demise, right? And seeing something out loud. So the point is, in order for you to stop revenge trading and stop seeing yourself go through that, you gotta decrease the emotional drivers that are going to get you back on the top of that curve. All right, you can stop the screen share. How do I become more disciplined, and how do I adhere to my risk management strategies? Okay, so again, point I made earlier, you got to make sure first and foremost that it truly is a discipline problem, which I would call, more on the left side of that curve, where you're actually lacking too much energy, versus being on the right side of the curve where your energy is too high. So that's the first thing you want to do. Now, let's assume that's an emotional issue. Well, then you got to deal with the individual emotions that are forcing your discipline to break down, and you to violate your risk management rules. And then on the flip side, if it is a lack of true energy, well, then getting more connected to your goals is the number one way to improve that. And maybe that means actually writing them down and being more explicit about what you were trying to accomplish, and more importantly, why. Okay, the why is critical. The more that you understand what is driving you, the more you can use that at times when your discipline and risk management is likely to break down, so that you have conviction around what you're doing. And a lot of times that conviction is around not just trading properly, but correcting the bad habits that oftentimes have been ingrained and kind of force your hand. What do I do, what do I do to get rid of all thinking before taking a trade? Sometimes I see that the move is bearish on a daily, but in my mind comes the question, it's not too late to be short if the market will bounce, and I go long. So I don't think the answer you're looking for is to get rid of all thinking. Like, if you got rid of all thinking in trading, then you might as well just create an algo and pull yourself completely out of it. What you're looking to do is get rid of the thoughts that are manipulating you. And those thoughts are not the problem. I understand why you would think that they are, but those thoughts are being driven by underlying emotions that are seducing you. Okay. And so maybe it's fear that's driving this. Maybe it's a little bit of FOMO that's driving this. Maybe it's anger. Like, again, figure out what the emotion is. And if you correct the emotion, then that specific thought will stop coming to your mind, because that's what's, that's what's causing it to spring to your mind. Secondly, in the short term, because it's going to take a little while to get there, in the short term, you can at least define all of the BS logic that comes to mind, right? Line item by line item, that compels you or manipulates you into bad behavior, into making bad trades. And then when you see those thoughts, well, then you know that they're not intuitive, right? They're not intuition guiding you to make very, very high level decisions. They're actually emotional, guiding you to make some pretty bad ones. How to grow up as a trader. I've been at this a while and can't seem to take the next step to get out of the gambler state. Well, it's a hard one, because if you're so consumed by that gambler state, my guess is you're trying to gamble your way to results or like progress mentally, right? You're trying to like gamble your way out of gambling, which will never work. So the poison pill that you got to take here, which is actually good for you, is one that requires sequencing, right? One that requires the small baby steps to progress, rather than looking for the big victories, right? So how do I grow up as a trader is kind of the same kind of question, like versus how can I take the small steps that are required to steadily get myself more skilled and better? And if it's more emotional than it is technical, well, then it's the same thing, right? How can I progressively get better? And, one of the ways you can do that is to get rid of the efforts. It's so easy when you're down, let's say, in a combine, and you've got 20, 30% left of your account before you have to reset and start again, to just say, F it, gamble the whole thing as a way of pulling yourself out. And actually, I have a client who's going through this right now, and I have forced him to take the slow road, to not reset the account prematurely or by forcing it in that way, but to actually graduate the right way. Because if you force yourself to stay in there and dig through and grind trading the right way, then it's not just about passing the combine and getting a funded account. It's what skills are you bringing when you get there? If you gamble your way to that point, you're likely to end up gambling with a funded account and probably lose it. So it's really about hardening the skill set that's required, not just to get you there, but but that is required to sustain you there. How do you make, how do you resolve the issue with executing trades to match the trade plan? I should make 1 to 2 trades a day, not dozens. Major disconnect between the idea versus the execution. Okay. This is emotions driving you, like, without a doubt. Okay. Because you know that if you weren't driven by them, like, you would easily be able to adhere to that strategy of taking 1 to 2 trades. Okay. But it's a variety of situations that then compel you to. And it could be as simple as losing 1 trade. It could be as simple as, sitting on the sidelines and seeing a trade go without you. So you didn't actually lose money. You just missed out on an opportunity. And so then that triggers you, right? So you got to start defining, like, what are the things that are triggering you, triggering your emotions. And then those emotions then compel the bad behavior. If you can't figure that out, then just start taking some notes day to day, right? About what's going on, where those mistakes start to occur. And that over time will help to give you a bit more guidance and vision there. All right, looking at the list here, Hogue, I think we're spent.
All right, we are good to go then. Jared, I can't thank you enough. I mean, all of these sessions that you do with us are so good and so helpful for everybody. I think we're all really lucky to have you here, and I'm very happy that you love what you do. You do bring a different perspective to it, and that perspective is always so spot on and so good. Thanks for the new platform. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Congratulations on getting that done. If you don't have the book, get the book. Read the book. It is excellent. You got to get on Jared's email list too, because there's lots of continuing content that he sends out all the time. Jared, your little book that you sent out on intuition and learning to trust your intuition, you added a whole another kind of facet to it. I've always focused on impulse and intuition, never thought about instinct. Instinct is a missing piece that you have brought to me. I can't tell you, thank you very much. I absolutely love having you with us, and I feel like we're very lucky to have you with us.
Thanks, I appreciate that, and yeah, that's great to bring some visibility to some of the other things that I sometimes take for granted, like that intuition ebook. I did allude to that today, so I think the link should be down there to my website where you can go and download it. The intuition ebook is free. It's just kind of a nice companion piece to the mental game of trading. And yeah, I'm psyched that somebody at your level can benefit from that too, which is always.
I benefit from so much that you bring to us, and that intuition ebook is free. One of the questions that I saw on the chat here was, "What is the meaning of life?" Which is certainly not a lightning round thing, but all I could think to say was a quote from Pablo Picasso, who says, "The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away." So
I love that.
Yes. Yeah. And that there's so much great content that you do. You just give it away, buy the book, read the book, do what the book says. You're going to speed your learning curve. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a wonderful thing for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Hogue. Yeah, I mean, I know for sure that I would not be as fulfilled as I feel had I actually achieved my goal of being a professional golfer, because this is special, truly. I mean, I feel like I have an understanding and a perspective that, fits all of my skill sets, right? And golf is cool, but it's just selfish. And so for me, I've fixed a lot of my own mental and emotional issues, and then, kind of figured out how to help many other people fix theirs. And in doing so, I've fixed my other ones, and it just is all kind of worked together. And it truly is a passion and thing that I love. And, it has a lot of deep meaning to me, and I'm continuing to learn and grow too. So, and having the interactions with these questions and with you and with the platform is allowing me to continue to do that. And it's fun and exciting. So I'm happy to be here and look forward to the next session.
Well, it's been a blessing for us to have you here. Blessings to you. And we will see you next time. I can't wait.